I'm gonna do a weapon review. A review of Dahl plasma casters. Hyperion and Tediore plasma casters are well known, but Dahl ones are seemingly forgotten. I have two rolls here, both graciously bestowed upon me by our beloved Hatterax. As you can see, consumes 2 ammo per shot, 3 shots per burst, 4 with a Dahl stock, which I don't have, so 6 or 8 ammo per burst. They also do grenade splash, which would be nice on Axton or Craig. Since I'm doing this review on 0 though, I have no way of boosting that grenade splash, which doesn't really matter since we can boost the base gun damage so much anyway. Let's get to killing, shall we? I have a corrosive bone, and I'll be using the legendary killer because I prefer it for weapons with higher fire rates. Though I will not be spec'ing to two-fang because it feels yucky, but for weapons like plasma casters, it'd be very nice to have. Not that this thing is hurting much for DPS, it's quite the strong SMG. I also have Velocity fully spec'd, which I'll also recommend since the projectiles on plasma casters are a tad slow. That does hurt the slag pimp a tad, but it's well worth it in my opinion. I'm struggling very slightly to get crits even from this relatively short distance, which is likely user error, but the raw damage of this thing is more than enough to make up for my bad aim. I am fighting loaders here, which are much more forgiving with slower projectiled, closer range weapons due to their numerous crit spots, so I'll be moving on to flesh enemies shortly. I can't stress enough the fact that the damage this thing deals is really nice. I am playing as Zero, who makes any gun do really nice damage, and I won't be trying this on any other characters for now. Since the plasma caster is a closer range weapon, it's nice to have for enemies like power loaders who are easier to deal with if you bait a melee attack and then blow their arms off. That's the wrong grenade, oopsies. I wasn't sure if this gun would have enough damage to take out a super loader comfortably, so I didn't want to risk getting down to trying to kill that one. This is a rare instance of me being a little overly cautious. As you can see, I didn't have much to worry about. Not quite a 1 mag kill, but still pretty good. A small note on ammo consumption. This gun does eat a lot of ammo, but the SMG ammo pool is very big, so it wasn't too much of a problem. I know there's a super loader down there, so I threw grenades to slag and aggro him. Extremely close to a 1 mag kill. If the prefix on this was stopping instead of flying, I bet I would have got it. This, again, is likely user error, but I have a lot more luck in terms of damage when hip firing as opposed to aiming down sights. Not sure why. I guess since these guys are loaders, more shots just find a crit spot to hit. Not that that's too big of an issue since this is a closer range weapon anyway. You do lose out on any damage from kill confirmed, but I didn't spec it to begin with, so ha. I went down here because I suck at this game, but an important thing to note is I didn't feel safe using the plasma caster for a second wind, even though I likely could have. But it's important to not try to use one weapon for every situation. There's a reason I'm not using a slag plasma caster as a slag tool after all. Why was I able to 1 mag that guy, but not the other two guys? I must have got more crits on this one's eye and missed the eye some on the other two. I recorded a lot more in Washburn, but it felt kinda superfluous. So here's Hurley getting killed, and then we're moving on to the fleshies. And I'm gonna fight Flesh Boys on a map I don't see anyone ever mention despite it being very cool and fun, the Buzzard Camp in the Dust. And as you could already see, the damage is still very good. Unfortunately, I very quickly encountered a bit of a roadblock in the form of a juggernaut I wasn't mentally prepared to deal with. I couldn't really get crits from this angle, so I had to rely on body shots, which were just barely enough to take him out before I died. It did still take him out though, which I count as a win. The normal unshielded bandit that immediately followed didn't even need slag to be melted by this gun. Honestly, despite the fire plasma caster I happened to have being a worse roll parts-wise, it seemingly was way more effective on bandits than my corrosive one was against bots. Goliaths do make things a little more annoying. The damage against this one on body shots wasn't as impressive as I expected it to be, and since this thing is splash, you run the risk of popping his helmet. Normally I'm really bad at getting crits on enraged Goliaths, but I guess I got lucky here because this one was quick to take out. Nearly one bursted that guy through his shield, by the way. This is some footage of me attempting to use the plasma caster at more mid-range, and it's not going super well. I'm not sure if it's me or the gun, but I have a real hard time hitting enemies at this distance. Either way, I found closing the distance more effective than trying to play at longer ranges, generally speaking. I think you get the idea by now that this gun is really nice for mobs and can even take out tankier enemies comfortably. Nothing more to see here, let's go fight a boss! We're starting off with the corrosive one against good old Wilhelm. I didn't change my build at all for the bossing section when I probably should have, but things went mostly pretty well regardless. I'm not the most efficient Wilhelm fighter, but this damage is still pretty decent. I know from experience that using plasma casters to get rid of the surveyors is tedious, so I just use a rocket launcher for them. The DPS here can be pretty high, but unfortunately I do in fact suck, so I'm not able to capitalize as well as I'd like. So this fight was like 63 seconds. I could shave that down a good bit with a different build and some more efficient gameplay, but I'm not trying to speedrun. It did well enough. Oh yeah, this was pretty funny. His Abominableness Sir Tinto Snowflake Esquire is next, and of course I'll be using the fire one for this fight. And let me tell you, the damage was really not cutting the mustard here. Snowflake is pretty tanky, and he can't be slagged, which doesn't help. It does kill the Frostbiters okay-ish, but Snowflake is just out of this gun's league. Wilhelm is on the easier side of bosses, so it makes sense that it was able to do as well as it did against him. This was the biggest burst of damage I got, and I fought him for almost 5 minutes before dying to him. So we'll call it not great for bossing, but pretty good overall. I'd give this thing a B- because of how good the damage on mobs is, but it's not as impressive against more tanky enemies. Okay, bye. Don't forget to subscribe. I still need 500 subs.